We're going to look at Mead's concepts of socialization and I and me in regards to the Spider-Man Homecoming movie. So first, socialization. In Mead's theory, he argues that, as humans, we are naturally social and born with natural good. However, the natural good needs to be nurtured in order to be active within the social act. For example, because Peter has grown up with a loving aunt who has influenced his natural good and strengthened his relationship with his morality, he appears to want to help people wherever he can, and this is what he perceives to be the role of the hero. As Mead says, he cries or laughs, he moves towards his mother or stretches out his arms. When these gestures and others bring back the images of his own responses and their results, the child has the material out of which he builds up the social objects that form the most important part of his environment. This is further reinforced in role-playing, where one imitates the roles of others without realizing the consequences or what they mean. For example, Peter's perception of a hero can be considered small and innocent, giving people directions, opening the doors for others, and so on. The change in his perception of a superhero and their role and his self-image, which is of an ordinary teenage boy, can be seen when he engages with the Avengers and sees their roles as much more significant and exciting. This affects his developing self-image and perception of the role of real superheroes, for example Iron Man, which then affects his social acts, where he goes on to try and prove himself. Specifically in the game stage, the social responses that Peter receives for his differing roles as ordinary Peter and Spider-Man influence his dilemma of how the suit has been so important to him. By being just Peter, the social reactions that he has gotten from his peers and environment were largely negative and degrading, where he was practically invisible. This opposes the reactions he gets when he has the Spider-Man suit on, playing the role of the superhero. Everyone knows who he is and greatly admire him, even his own bully. This then illustrates how Peter begins to believe that he is nothing without the suit. His self-interest is challenged by the views of others and the expectations of the different people in his life. So when Tony Stark takes away Peter's suit after his continuous rash behavior to prove himself, it is then that Peter has a chance to understand that he does not need his suit to be Spider-Man. The realization of the various perspectives of his two roles and how they correlate with each other, where he cannot be one without the other. As Spider-Man, he is expected to support the city unconditionally with courage and put the others first before himself, whereas Peter is expected to go to school, be a good friend and nephew, be a normal teenager with normal teenager problems. Moreover, Mead also highlights in his theory of social self that the two parts of the self, the me and the I, correlate, where the I and the me constitute an internal dilemma. The I is the subjective self and the me is the objective values of the society the child has taken in. An I that observes, but an I that can disclose himself only by ceasing to be the subject for whom the object me exists. This means that the I, which are individual desires, can be overlooked by the more important expectations of society, which is the me. In Spider-Man Homecoming, Peter is constantly struggling between his own desires and what is rational and converged around the principles of reality. Saving the world and wanting to join the Avengers, he breaks the rules by going after trouble rather than being a regular high school student. For example, Peter chooses to go after the bad guys rather than staying in school. This is where the I would be escaping from school and attention and going after trouble which he is not ready for. And the me would be the social advice from his best friend Ned and Captain America. Peter obviously overlooks his me and engages with his I, not thinking rationally. This reflects that it is a more personal process rather than social, also illustrating his adolescence. Although, as the movie goes on and as Peter begins to understand the meanings of his roles in socialization, it is apparent that his internal observations gear more towards rationality than me. Because although he wants to become an Avenger, going to school and being normal is the more responsible and realistic choice.